What's up, nerds? It's your boy. I've got something on my face. Looks like paint. Cat food? Who knows? It is Friday. It is 7:30 in the morning. It is the 11th day of November 2022. It's early. I thought it was 8. Well, who cares? It's Friday. It's Veterans Day, so thank you to all the men and women in the armed forces who have sacrificed so much for us, and hopefully someday the Veterans Affairs Organization will actually give the veterans coming home the support and help and care that they need. We really do treat our veterans kind of like crap, don't we? Yeah. Moving on to slightly happier and sillier subjects, it's time for all the bits and bobs of tabletop role-playing game news we might have missed during the week because we were spending so much time looking at other stuff that was going on this week. And of course, we have two big Wizards of the Coast related stories to take a look at. Now, yesterday we uncovered the letter that Christopher Perkins posted on the D&D Beyond website regarding the inclusion issues that seem to be plaguing Wizards of the Coast. And we spent about 30 minutes making fun of this letter. So if I offended anybody yesterday, who feels that the choices Wizards of the Coast making are actually correct, I apologize. Obviously, a huge chunk of my channel is tongue-in-cheek parody, making fun of Wizards of the Coast, making fun of gaming, and just sort of trying to add a little humor to the often ridiculousness that seems to be plaguing. So as a liberal, Democrat, whatever it is I am, here, honestly, I support the idea of inclusion and of people being able to feel welcome and safe at a gaming table. But I come from the generation where everybody felt welcome and safe at the gaming table. Gatekeeping wasn't a thing. If you even showed a passing interest in gaming when we were playing in the 70s and 80s, we were like, do you want to learn? Nobody was excluded. I don't know where this idea came from. I mean, I've played all over the country. I've played all over the world. I've played with thousands of people of every race, creed, color, religion, shape, size, sexual preference. Never once did anybody feel that they were not included. I mean, I've definitely had some weird encounters with people who felt other things, like I was, like the whole thing with the girl and the turkey, but I mean, that had nothing to do with them feeling included or not feeling included. And obviously, I've had people who have disagreed with me in my gaming style. But again, never, ever, ever in my entire 40 plus years of being an active member of this hobby have I ever felt personally like I wasn't welcome at a table because of the color of my skin or my sexual preference or whatever. And I've never met anybody who felt that way. But maybe that's just a California thing. I can't speak for the rest of the country. Maybe there are people out there who have actually had these experiences and do feel this way and seriously have experienced this. Not this ridiculousness, but now, and let's face it, out of the 100 people that are pouring out this, D&D is racist, I've got blue hair, I've got white skin, therefore I am qualified to talk about the experience of Asians in role-playing culture. Maybe out of the 100 of them, there's one who's actually like, yes, I am Asian, and I was made to feel like crap, and I do want to talk about it. But most of them sort of feel like they're just rattling a cage for the sake of rattling it. So if I offended anybody yesterday by making fun of the Wizards of the Coast thing, I apologize. So now, in all seriousness, let's take a deeper look at what Christopher Perkins said and what Christopher Perkins meant. And this is what was known in history as plausible deniability. Plausible deniability. So basically, what Christopher Perkins said is, we made a mistake. Apparently, some people were offended by the pictorial of this creature, so we're going to change it. So going forward, that pictorial will not be in any future copies of the product. Yeah, we were supposed to have individuals whose whole job was to spot things like this, but it didn't happen in this case. And those individuals have been replaced. We're going to have newer individuals whose job it is to spot these mistakes going forward and then bring them to the attention of the head, being as the previous head is gone, and therefore nip it in the bud. So having an editor, having a content consultant on paper, hey, that seems like a good idea. But here's actually what it means. Okay, so Wizards of the Coast claims since they began this campaign of inclusion, which started around Tasha's or before Tasha's, but it's been floating around the industry for a while. I mean, it goes all the way back to the Miles Morales Spider-Man stuff, and people like that. So supposedly for every project since X, and we're going to say Tasha's, everything after Tasha's had these consultants, these sensitivity cultural consultants, whose job it was. Now, this is a made-up position because there's no such thing. There are cultural anthropologists, and there are creative consultants, and there are press secretaries, and there are editors. Those are all real things. But a sensitivity consultant, there's no such thing. People had to make up a job and then make up programs that supported these makeup jobs and make up fake degrees to support these makeup jobs so they could go, I, as a white person born in the United States of America from two white middle-class parents, am qualified to talk about how black people have been treated in your role-playing game, which is basically what it is. And, actual people of color are going, no, you are not qualified to talk about the experience my ancestors had. So since this time, they have claimed that they have had these experts whose job it was to point out these mistakes. Now, consistently, those mistakes have still happened. And strangely enough, several times in the products, they have forgot to mention the consultants in the credits. Now, that could just be an oversight. I don't know. But we do know that since Wizards of the Coast claimed these individuals were looking at their product, those examples of problematic content have still happened in pretty much every single product since they said that they were doing it, leading us up to Spelljammer and the problematic depiction of the Hadozi. So Wizards of the Coast has responded with the, well, when it comes to that one thing, that wasn't consulted on by the professionals. So somehow that was the one day when that stuff that was on the printer that the guy or girl or individual wasn't there or didn't look at it, or for some reason they forgot to show it to them. Okay. Now, this is plausible deniability because now Wizards of the Coast can say, well, we missed it because the person whose job it was to spot that stuff didn't consult on that part. That person no longer works for here, and it won't happen again. But when it does happen again, they have already established plausible deniability. Because let's say in Dragonlance, which is the next one, somebody is offended by a picture or a wording or whatever, and they can say, Wizards of the Coast, I am really, really, really offended because of the way you portrayed fish is offensive to me because the fish looks vaguely Hispanic, and it's sort of looking like a comedic portrayal of the way Hispanic people have often been portrayed. And as a person, who of Hispanic descent, I'm offended by this fish, or whatever it is going to be. I remember I read something the other day about there's something about a fish in Dragonlance that somebody was offended by, so I'm sure that'll come up again. This is I'm not making that up. There really was a thing about somebody got a preview of Dragonlance, and there's a picture of a woman holding a fish, and this person was offended by the way the fish looked. I can't make this shit up. So, should the cascade of negative responses hit Wizards of the Coast from Dragonlance over this fish or whatever it is, because let's face it, we know it's going to happen. Wizards of the Coast can now, in plausible deniability, say, that was not consulted upon. That was our cultural sensitivity consultant didn't go over that. Because they've already said, in regards to the monkeys, the Hodozis, our sensitivity consultant didn't consult on that bit. So, we're sorry you're offended by this fish, but our sensitivity consultant didn't go over that one. That person won't work for us anymore. Going forward, the next project, we assure you, we will have individuals who will look at it. But the same thing will happen. And the next project after Dragonlance, which I think is the Giant book, is the next one. I have to check the release schedule, but why? It's going to change. They can say, oh, somebody was offended by X in the Giant book. Well, plausible deniability, the sensitivity consultant didn't consult on that. That person doesn't work here anymore, and it won't happen again. The second thing they did is say that all that stuff, after it goes through the consultants, is gone over by the head of D&D. And if the head of D&D let the Hadozi still get published, well, that's on him. That's not on us. Plausible deniability. Wizards of the Coast didn't make that mistake. Hasbro didn't make that mistake. Ray made that mistake. Ray missed the Hadozi. Ray missed all the other stuff leading up to Spelljammer that has been said to be problematic. Guess what? Ray doesn't have a job anymore. We have a brand new head of D&D. Now, after everything goes through these sensitivity consultants, it's the new guy's job to look at everything and go, oh, how did you miss this? And if there is a series of further complaints, and let's face it, there will be, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro can say, oh, plausible deniability, it's not our fault, it's the head of D&D's fault. Don't worry, we just fired Jeremy Crawford and replaced him with another Microsoft employee. Now, why is this all falling on the laps of Microsoft employees? Because when these inevitable mistakes happen, and when these inevitable offensive things happen, because let's face it, at this point, somebody's going to be offended by something in Wizards of the Coast product. No matter what, you will find one person who somehow makes that illogical leap that this equals racism. By making all the product digital, by making the errata digital, by making all the new stuff that you have to pay for again going forward digital, once that mistake is pointed out, it's a lot easier to pay some kid right out of college, $20 an hour to go in and just change a few words on the digital document and then reshuffle it and go, hey, the new errata is up that addresses the mistakes in Dragonlance or whatever, the Giant book. Okay, so all you have to do is download the new errata, which will replace the mistake. Okay, so I don't have to buy the new book again, is what you're saying. Like in the past, because everybody who bought Spelljammer is going to have to go out and buy a new Spelljammer because they don't want to be called racist because they have the Spelljammer that has the Hadozi original content in it. And Wizards of the Coast will respond, yes, this digital stuff is available on D&D Beyond for free as long as you're paying the D&D Beyond monthly subscription fee. Oh, okay. And if I don't download this because I've already got the Dragonlance book or the Giant book or the Deck of Many Things book, what does this mean? Well, if you don't download the errata that addresses the issue, well, I mean, we're not saying you're racist, but somebody's going to say you're racist. So if we brush aside all the ugliness and all the silliness, this basically boils down to covering our asses / circling the wagons / plausible deniability. Hasbro can always say it's not our fault, it's Wizards of the Coast's fault. And the rank and file at Wizards of the Coast can say it's not our fault that the Hadozi are considered problematic. It was the sensitivity consultant's job to spot that, and for some reason, the sensitivity consultant didn't consult on the Hadozi. It was the head of D&D's job to spot the mistakes that the sensitivity consultant missed. Somehow, the head of D&D missed the Hadozi. Guess what? The sensitivity consultant who consulted on Spelljammer, gone. And Ray's gone. And in the future, we're just going to hire a whole bunch of new ones. And when they make mistakes, we can get rid of them and hire a completely different group of new ones. See, and it's all going to be digital, so when you find that mistake, we can just digitally fix it Therefore, we don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars printing out a brand new book, which we will not make any money on. We'll be lucky if we break even. Instead, we can just have, have some college kid go in and do it and change it for us for $20 an hour and then kick that kid to the curb. You can download the brand new errata from D&D Beyond for free, as long as A, you've purchased the original product and still have the code, and B, you're paying the monthly fee for D&D Beyond. Meanwhile, we don't have to pay anybody $200,000. We can just pay kids straight out of college $20 an hour to fix it and then kick them to the curb. So that is what happened yesterday. Moving on to the other major news, of course, is the Justin LaNassa one. If Wizards of the Coast is the bad guys in the first story, are they the good guys in this one? Because as we know, there is a continuing legal kerfuffle. Is that a word? I just made it up. Between Wizards of the Coast, Justin LaNassa / TSR 3.5 / Wonderwork Toys / Dungeon Hobby Shop / Star Frontiers / whatever it is that LaNassa is doing now. And there's actually like 3 or 4 different lawsuits in process between this guy. Now, the latest one is the harassment charges that were brought against LaNassa and the violation of privacy charges. Now, this dates back to when somehow Justin LaNassa made private information of hundreds of individuals who have purchased product and dealt with him publicly available. They were on a spreadsheet, apparently. He mailed stuff out, and somehow this was broadcasted. This is the symbol for broadcasting. Broadcasted out into the great wide world. So Tom, Dick, Harry, and Jane were looking at emails and like, oh, here's an email from Justin. And on it is a spreadsheet with dozens of people's names, addresses, phone numbers, credit card information. So, violation of privacy. In response, Justin LaNassa started to harass these people so that they would not bring charges against them and that they would not use this as evidence in the lawsuit against him. So a protection was filed against him, which is basically like a restraining order saying you can't harass these people anymore. You can't contact these people anymore. You cannot threaten these people anymore. You cannot take any steps to deal with this situation. Okay, you can't. Right, and then piggybacked on that was also you can't make any more accusations against Wizards of the Coast. You have to be quiet and let the courts handle this. And in regards to the people that you are threatening, you need to stop. So Justin LaNassa stopped. But Wonderwork Toys and Marion Renfield, or it's something like that, continued where LaNassa left off. Well, it turns out Wonderwork Toys was Justin LaNassa, and this fake account, Marion Renfield, I think was the name, or something like that. Doesn't matter. Justin LaNassa has a fake account where he was continuing to harass people, continuing to make threats, continuing with this nonsense. And of course, since he had already openly admitted that was the fake account was him, Wonderworks Toys was him, he violated the protection clause. He has violated the restraining order. He violated what the court said he couldn't do anymore. In response to that, employees from Wonderwork Toys have said, whoop, oh, dude, I'm done, dude. Whoa, I do not want to be held responsible for your weirdness. So employees are abandoning ship over at whatever Wonderwork Toys is. And this, of course, all spirals back down to the Wizards of the Coast versus TSR 3.5 control over the words TSR and Star Frontiers. Who owns Star Frontiers? And, LaNassa has claimed he's printed Star Frontiers. You can see it. Here's documentation showing people backed it and purchased it. Okay, well, where is it? These people claim they've never received it. It's in the mail. And all that information you've got down that people have purchased it and where you sent it and their credit card numbers. Yeah, I've got it on the spreadsheet. You mean the spreadsheet that you sent out to hundreds of people? So now dozens of people have the personal information on these people who supposedly purchased copies of this supposedly existing role-playing game product. Yeah, I totally... Wait, oh, no, I did. And yeah, so that's the Justin LaNassa news. Is there anything else going on in the world besides that? I mean, there are other game companies, right, who might be doing something worthy of news besides Wizards of the Coast. And in the Justin LaNassa case, is the Wizards of the Coast the good guys? So, hey, yeah, there's a Monty Python role-playing game coming out. Does anybody know whether any of the living remaining members of Monty Python had anything to do with this product or not? So I'm going to go to the Kickstarter here. Officially licensed book. It's officially licensed. So, yes. Monty Python's remaining members had some say of it. I mean, John Cleese is still alive. But I'm looking. I am looking at the, there's Terry Gilliam's arts in it. So, did Terry Gilliam do some of the art? But when you look at the list of artists, it doesn't list Terry Gilliam. Well, it lists a bunch of made-up names who could be Terry Gilliam. But I'm looking to see if anybody from Monty Python actually had anything to do with this. And I mean, they've got Gilliam art and pictures from the show, and it says officially licensed, but I cannot find any mention of any of the actual living members of the Monty Python team. I mean, I'm looking at the credits right here. Game design and writing. But, were any of is Monty Python public domain, or did whoever's remaining, John Cleese and the others, say yes, make a role-playing game on our product and we give you our permission? Because it doesn't say anywhere. So does anybody know if they had anything to do with the Monty Python role-playing game? Other tabletop role-playing game news that we might have missed during the week that has nothing to do with Justin LaNassa or Wizards of the Coast? Nope, nothing. Critical Role. Something, Critical Role, something, one shot, something, another cliffhanger, something. People are upset because Critical Role did something. I mean, I could go into the Critical Role news, but they did a one shot, which was associated with NordVPN. People are upset about that. How dare you sell out Critical Role? How dare you do a game that wasn't D&D? And I guess something happened with the dead, not dead character and another character, and people were upset about that. How dare you do character development? How dare something happen to the player character that we were so obsessed about? How dare you run your game, Matt Masser, in a way that doesn't agree with the way I think you should run your game, and based upon my expectations of your game from 2 campaigns ago? But why? It's the exact same stuff. It's not like they change. The shit that people are saying about Critical Role now are the same shit people were saying about Critical Role previously. At least my shit about Critical Role hasn't really changed, except at this point I don't feel angry at them. I feel sorry for them. So there's no reason for me to talk about Critical Role anymore. And remember, I said I will stop talking about Critical Role once I reach 1,000 subs. So if you never want to hear me talk about Critical Role ever again, subscribe. And help me head to subs and subs. If you were offended by yesterday's making fun of the whole Wizards of the Coast inclusion things, I apologize. Obviously, I do want you to feel included and safe at the role playing game table. I just don't want it to become this weird, ugly, bizarro world thing that Wizards of the Coast is turning it into. There was nothing racist about the Hadozi. There was nothing offensive about the Hadozis, and the Hadozi were a pre-existing race that has been around. Um, so, if it was a Saturday morning cartoon in the 80s, people would be like, yeah, I love this cartoon. Monkeys, space monkey pirates who have escaped, a life of being genetically created warrior slaves, and how this one ragtag group of space monkeys are going to try and save the rest of their people. People would be like, I love this cartoon. But now people are like, I'm offended by that. Because I'm not really a monkey from space, but I know monkeys from space, so that offends me. So if anything I said yesterday about this nonsense offends you, I apologize. And if you have any commentary on what's going on with Justin LaNassa and TSR 3.5, let me know. If there's anything I missed this week that you want to talk about over the weekend, let me know. Otherwise, happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. I am the OGGM, and that's it. Signing off till next time. See ya.